If your life feels smaller than it was meant to be, it is not because you are incapable. It is because fear has stolen your permission to act. There was a time you believed more, reached further, spoke louder, but over time, through ridicule, routine, and rejection, you started to shrink. You chose silence over expression, delay over decision, safety over destiny. But deep in your mind, something remained, a voice that said you were made for more. This is that voice grown louder, and in the next hour, it will not whisper, it will roar. It will remind you of what you already knew before the world taught you to fear yourself. This is not a motivational message. It is a restoration. It is the return of your will, your clarity, your command. Fear has stolen too much. Years, dreams, power, but no more. If you truly listen, not casually, not while distracted, but with every nerve focused, every breath sharpened, then this speech will reinstall the identity that fear buried. The man you almost became will become inevitable, but only if you commit to every word. Drift for one moment and fear will win again. But stay fully, and the next hour will not be just a turning point. It will be a rebirth. Now silence the noise and lean in, because you were meant for way more. And starting now, you remember, there is no louder thief in a man's life than fear, but it does not break in with force. It enters with silence. It does not shout, but whispers. It convinces the man to wait, to calculate, to choose later over now, safety over daring, doubt over decision. And by the time that man realizes something has been taken, it is already too late. Years have passed. The fire has cooled. The aim has drifted. And though his body is still young, his courage has withered like a leaf ignored by the sun. The greatest losses in life are not caused by opposition, but by the man himself when he begins to accept the language of limitation. Fear does not need to kill your dream. It only needs to persuade you to delay it. The man who says not yet today will say maybe someday tomorrow. And the man who says maybe someday tomorrow will one day look back and call his entire life almost. I have sat with powerful men whose names built industries, whose minds turned dust into empires. But I have also sat with those who could have done the same and didn't. Not because they lacked knowledge, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they allowed fear to disguise itself as caution, realism, and responsibility. These are not virtues. They are polished chains. When Henry Ford envisioned the automobile, he did not walk among cheerleaders. He walked among critics. Wagons, they said, are more practical. Horse-drawn, they insisted, is the way of the future. They laughed at the absurdity of a machine on wheels. And yet, while they laughed, he built. While they warned him, he worked. And when the world resisted, he persisted. Had Ford waited for applause before acting, the road would still belong to horses. But he knew, the world does not reward the man who waits. It follows the one who walks. This is the great law. Fear only wins if you hesitate. If you move, it falls behind. If you wait, it sharpens its claws. It feeds on inaction. The longer you pause, the louder it speaks. You think fear needs to overpower you. It doesn't. It just needs you to slow down, to stall, to question yourself, to reach for another book before you begin, to say, I'm not ready one more time. And then it builds its home inside your voice, inside your decisions, inside your very identity. Let me speak plainly. You are not tired. You are not confused. You are not unprepared. You are haunted by the belief that staying small keeps you safe. But what has that safety brought you? What fruit has come from doubt? What fortune has been built by delay? Every time you hesitate at the edge of purpose, fear wins another round, and you lose another year. A man must learn to see fear not as a stop sign, but as a signal that something sacred is near. The presence of fear often confirms that you are close to your greatest growth. but only if you step through it. Most men do not fail because they were wrong. They fail because they never even began. They let fear steal the first step. And once that first step is gone, the path begins to vanish. I say to you now, act while afraid. Speak while your voice shakes. Build while your hands tremble, because the man who moves through fear becomes the man who commands it. You do not eliminate fear by waiting for its permission. You eliminate it by ignoring its voice and walking anyway. The subconscious does not respond to excuses. It obeys action. And if you hesitate, your mind will obey hesitation. Let us not pretend this is new knowledge. You've felt it already, in your chest, in your gut, in the back of your mind where your future speaks in quiet rebellion. It has whispered to you every day, you were meant for more. Not louder, just clearer. But fear is louder, and you've obeyed the voice that shouted instead of the one that knew. Today, that ends. Repeat after me, not with passivity, but with decision. I am the type of man who no longer pauses at the edge of purpose. Fear does not counsel me, it flees me. I am not cautious, I am called. Let these not be mere words, but commands. The man who walks with a definite purpose, who acts as if the outcome is already his, is a man whom fear can no longer follow. And that man is now. The downfall of most men is not a sudden blow. It is a slow fade, a slipping into softness, a quiet surrender to routine and false comfort. They do not fall by force, they fall by drift. This is the devil's most effective weapon, not fury, but familiarity, not crisis, but comfort. It is not failure that takes them. It is delay, repetition, and the illusion that another day, another month, another year will bring clarity, when in truth it only brings decay. Outwitting the devil revealed this in its most chilling clarity. The adversary of progress does not need to crush your goals. It only needs to make you postpone them. I'll wait until the timing is right. I'm not sure yet. I'm still preparing. These are not plans. These are eulogies read slowly across decades. And the man who speaks them has already died. He simply hasn't been buried yet. Fear breeds drift in its most deceptive form. It does not show up with horns and fury. It wears a suit and carries a calendar. It tells you to pause, to be smart, to wait for the right moment. But the right moment never comes to the man who does not decide. It arrives only for the one who demands it. Edison did not become a monument to invention by hoping ideas would visit him. He commanded them. He obsessed over his purpose to the point that doubt could no longer speak. While others slept in the rhythm of routine, Edison burned midnight oil, not to impress, but to progress. Drift is the enemy because it disguises itself as wisdom. The drifter often appears productive. He reads, studies, prepares, but he never commits. He is the man who builds blueprints but never lays a brick. He dreams, yes, but dreams in the daylight, never daring to labor in the night. And make no mistake, he may speak like a visionary, but he walks like a ghost. Each day you fail to rule is a day surrendered to the rhythm of fear. The subconscious, if left without command, will default to the loudest voice. And that voice, unchecked, is almost always doubt. Without repetition of purpose, the mind will replay what it has heard from others. Be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. What if you fail? But when you command it, when you speak into it daily, deliberately, forcefully, you drown out every voice but your own. You must become the architect of your rhythm. Rise with a vow. Speak your identity aloud. Move before you feel ready. These are not motivational gestures. They are spiritual declarations. If you do not anchor yourself to purpose each day, you will drift into the tides of fear, and those tides do not lift. They pull you under slowly until you mistake motion for direction and breath for life. Let me be clear, no man drifts toward greatness. No empire was ever stumbled into. It is forged by men who interrupt the rhythm, who build new patterns of thought, who speak and act with the intensity of one who knows that death comes not at the end of life, but at the end of purpose. Every man must make this choice daily. Will I drift or will I dominate? Will I wait or will I walk? Do not confuse survival with success. The man who drifts may breathe, but he does not live. Now take these words and do not whisper them. Declare them. Speak them as if your future hangs in the balance, because it does. I am the type of man who interrupts the drift. I destroy delay before it begins. My days do not repeat, they ascend. I lead my thoughts, they do not lead me. Like I do not drift, I decide. These affirmations are not poetry, they are programming. They are bricks laid each morning, each night, in the foundation of a mind that refuses to sleep while destiny waits. Speak them until they are no longer statements but habits. And once they are habits, you will discover what few men ever do. That drift was never your default, it was your neglect. And now the drift ends. Before the world told you what was impossible, before you were warned to be realistic, and before fear was painted as wisdom, you dreamed. Not as an exercise, but as a natural expression of who you were. You saw yourself building, leading, creating. You saw the stage, the mountain, the empire. You saw yourself great. And let this be understood clearly now. That vision was not a mistake, nor a child's wandering mind. It was a blueprint, divine, unmistakable, and designed for you and you alone. Great men do not dream because they are bored. They dream because they are called. And in your earliest years, before the world instructed you to shrink, you were still close enough to the divine to hear that call clearly. The boy who saw more, who reached without apology, who imagined a destiny far greater than his surroundings, that boy was not foolish. He was faithful. Fear entered not when you failed, but when someone told you to be careful, when someone said, be realistic, and you listened. That is when the corrosion began, a corrosion of spirit, a blurring of the inner eye. The voice of authority declared the path to greatness too risky, too far, or not for people like us. And slowly, the divine blueprint was buried under adult fears, social programming, and the cautious tones of those who had long abandoned their own potential. Let us consider Andrew Carnegie, not as a tycoon, but as a boy who arrived in America poor, unknown, unconnected. Yet within him, from the earliest age, burned the image of wealth, not for its own sake, but for what it could build, influence, and create. He never surrendered that vision. He held it closer than certainty. And that image, protected, repeated, obeyed, became the very fuel that carried him beyond the wildest expectations of the world around him. Not once did he allow the common sense of others to rewrite the dreams of his boyhood, because he knew what is planted early is planted by something greater than circumstance. The tragedy of modern men is not that they dream too big, but that they abandon the dream too soon. They permit the grind of daily life to file down the edges of vision until only a dull shape remains, unrecognizable, unlived. The man who once saw himself commanding, building, leading, now whispers apologies for wanting more. Not because he lacks ability, but because he forgot what he once knew as a child. I say to you now, return to that boy. Sit with him. Listen to what he once saw without fear. You may be surprised to discover that the vision still lives, even buried beneath years of neglect. For the subconscious never forgets, it only waits. It waits for your command, your declaration, your return to belief. And when you return, it will rise with fire. You must stop treating your childhood dreams as fiction. Begin to treat them as instruction, as if your Creator whispered a glimpse of what was meant for you before you were old enough to argue. And that image, if held and honored, has the power to rebuild a life of purpose, direction, and daily fire. So now I give you this challenge. It is not a task, it is a return. Go to a quiet room, sit, close your eyes. Do not think, remember. Remember what you wanted before the world taught you to fear wanting. Was it to speak before crowds, to build towers, to write, to lead, to create, to heal, to move mountains with your words or hands? Let it rise again. Let the picture take shape. Now write it with detail, with emotion, with clarity. Do not edit. Do not apologize. Let the boy speak through the man. And when you have written it, fold the paper. Place it on your desk, your mirror, your wall. And every day, every single day, read it aloud, with voice, with emotion, with belief. This is not for nostalgia. This is warfare. A war against the version of you that fear has manufactured. Because hear this, the boy who dreamed is the man who is now equipped to build it. But only if you remember him. Only if you honor him. Now repeat these words and do not say them softly. Say them as if your younger self is listening and waiting. I remember who I was before I was taught to fear. I honor the boy who dreamed. I do not apologize for greatness. I pursue it. My childhood vision was a prophecy, not a fantasy. I am not too late. I am exactly on time. Speak those words until they no longer feel like affirmations, but identity. Until your voice no longer shakes, until your vision no longer waits. Because the man who honors the dream of his youth is not chasing fantasy. He is answering a summons. And now the summons has arrived. There comes a moment in the life of every man when his talent, his worthiness, and even his intellect are no longer enough. Not because they are insufficient, but because they are idle. The world does not reward the most gifted. It rewards the most decided. The man who decides with finality, who moves without explanation, who acts while others hesitate, that man is obeyed by circumstances that bend to his will. All others become footnotes, talkers, thinkers, planners, eternally circling the moment of action, but never piercing it. You may be brilliant, you may be filled with potential, but if you have not made the decision, then you are still at the mercy of fear. And fear, like a parasite, will feed on your hesitation. It will convince you to gather more information, wait for more approval, gather more confidence, as if decision were something earned rather than chosen. Let this be known. Indecision is not wisdom. It is betrayal. It is the betrayal of self by self disguised as caution. Look to Charles M. Schwab, the man who rose not because he was the most intellectual strategist, but because he moved with certainty. Under Carnegie, Schwab did not sit and study endlessly. He decided. He spoke with clarity. He walked with the energy of a man already confirmed by destiny. And destiny responded. His decisiveness gave him command over men with far greater experience. And why? Because the undecided are always ruled by the decided. That is the law. It is unbending, and it rewards only those who have claimed power with conviction. Fear always asks for more proof, more signs, more guarantees. But life does not give its greatest treasures to the man who waits. It gives them to the man who moves. The man who says, "This is who I am and this is what I will do," and lets the world adjust. That man is dangerous, not because he knows everything, but because he knows enough to decide. Your current hesitation is not due to lack of opportunity. It is due to lack of finality. You are still leaving the door open to your past identity, your past beliefs, your past excuses. You think you need to see more clearly before you act, but clarity is the reward of commitment, not its precondition. You do not get to see the full staircase before taking the first step. The world does not reveal the entire plan to the undecided. It reveals the next step to the committed. Think of every great man history has honored: Carnegie, Edison, Ford, Rockefeller. None of them began with all the answers. They began with a decision that this would be their path, come what may. And the universe, the marketplace, the mind itself, all reorganized around that single point of conviction. It was not intellect, it was decision that moved mountains. So what are you waiting for? Whose permission are you secretly seeking? What approval do you believe will finally make you worthy to act? Let this truth thunder through your soul. You are not waiting for proof. You are delaying your power. And every day you wait, the man you were meant to become grows quieter inside you. The world is not against you. It is waiting on you, waiting for the signal that you are ready to stop dabbling and start dominating. And that signal is decision, not talk, not notes, not goals. A decision that says, this is who I am now. There is no going back. There is no second path. There is no safety net. I move forward. I do not retreat. Speak these words until your own subconscious has no choice but to obey. I am the type of man who decides with finality. I do not wait for certainty. I create it. My decision builds momentum. My decision attracts power. My decision commands the world. I no longer ask for permission. I move and the world moves around me. I do not explain, I execute. Let these be more than affirmations. Let them be a sword, a weapon against the inner voice that says, not yet, not sure, not enough. That voice is not you. It is fear, and fear has spoken long enough. Now you speak. Now you move. Because the world is not asking you to be perfect. It is only asking you to decide. There is a law more potent than most men will ever realize, a law that governs whether you rise in clarity or drown in confusion, whether your name becomes a banner of greatness or fades into the background hum of mediocrity. That law is bold repetition. The mind, like a field, grows whatever seed is planted, and the seed that is planted most frequently takes the strongest root. You may believe in ambition. You may dabble in discipline. But until your dominant repetition is directed on purpose, your results will remain accidents, not intentions. The subconscious mind is not swayed by logic. It is not moved by single moments of motivation. It does not respond to inspiration that flashes and fades like lightning in the night. It obeys only that which is repeated with feeling. And if you do not take command of that repetition, fear will do it for you. Understand this. The average man already has a repetition practice. He repeats worry. He repeats doubt. He repeats weakness, excuses, and imaginary limitations every single day. The only difference between the successful and the stagnant is what they rehearse. The man who repeats strength becomes strong. The man who repeats helplessness becomes a servant to circumstances. The subconscious makes no moral judgment. It does not discern between greatness and mediocrity. It merely obeys. And it obeys the voice it hears most often, especially when that voice is charged with emotion. Elbert Hubbard understood this law well. He did not surround himself with motivational slogans or aimless encouragement. He repeated creeds, declarations of intent, codes of self-command, statements of identity that pierce through doubt like a sword. He knew that to live deliberately, a man must speak to himself with the authority of one who has already arrived. There was no room for timid phrases, no tolerance for vague wishes. Hubbard spoke boldly because he understood that the subconscious mind respects power, not politeness. Let me speak plainly. If you are not repeating who you are becoming, you are reinforcing who you were. And who you were is not equipped to carry what you say you want. The future you are chasing cannot be built by a mind still ruled by yesterday's doubts. The answer, then, is repetition. But not just any repetition, bold repetition, the kind that charges your voice with certainty. The kind that shakes the silence in the morning and silences the noise at night. Every morning before the world speaks to you, you must speak to yourself. Before a single opinion enters your ears, you must install your own. You must rise and declare your intentions, not once, not occasionally, but daily and with force. You must stand before the mirror and remind your subconscious that there is only one voice it must obey, yours. That there is only one identity it must build, yours. That there is only one destiny it must serve, the one you command. The ritual is sacred. Do not skip it. Do not whisper it. Do not rush it. This is your moment of authorship. This is where the mind is most open and most programmable. The subconscious does not resist the voice you charge with belief. It absorbs it like soil drinks rain. When you speak with clarity and emotion, the mind does not argue. It obeys. So give it no uncertainty to obey. Give it vision. In the evening before sleep, you must repeat again. For as the body rests, the subconscious works. And what you last tell it will be the instruction it follows in the night. Do not let the final words of your day be, "I'm tired," "I hope tomorrow is better," or "we'll see." These are the whispers of a man drifting. End your day as a man who decides. Speak boldly. Tomorrow belongs to me. I am the man who wakes in command. I do not sleep to escape, I sleep to program. You may feel foolish at first. Good. That is the sign you're breaking the spell. That is the sign you're no longer drifting. Most men have rehearsed weakness for so long that strength feels foreign. But keep going. For in time, your voice will not sound strange. It will sound like home. And your mind will stop resisting. It will start building. Now take these declarations. Speak them not as suggestions, but as laws. Feel them in your chest. Let them move through your body with power. I am the type of man who walks with certainty, even when the path is unclear. I command my thoughts. They do not command me. I am the master of my morning and the author of my night. I speak life into my vision every single day. I am the type of man who rises before the world and decides who he will be. My voice trains my mind. My mind directs my world. I do not wait for belief. I speak until it obeys. My daily repetition builds a reality that no doubt can destroy. I am the type of man who does not flinch. I affirm with fire. There is no fear where my voice reigns. Repeat these in the morning before the world speaks to you. Repeat them in the evening before doubt tries to reclaim you. Repeat them when you are strong, and repeat them when you feel weak, especially when you feel weak. Because repetition in weakness is training. Repetition in comfort is maintenance. You are not here to maintain. You are here to rise. Let this law govern you now. Let repetition no longer be random but deliberate. Let the words you speak become bricks in the foundation of your future. Let your voice become the architect. Because the man who repeats with purpose becomes the man who walks in power. And no man walking in power ever begs the world to notice him. The world will notice, because the world has no choice but to respond to a man who speaks his identity into being, boldly, daily, and without apology. Fear is not always loud. It does not always scream or shake or knock at your door in the form of panic. No, the most dangerous form of fear, the kind that steals destinies and rewrites futures into regrets, comes dressed in the language of logic. And it says, be careful. It whispers, not now. It recommends, wait until everything is certain. And it nods, ever so calmly, when you retreat from the very thing your soul was commanded to do. This is not fear as you were taught to recognize it. This is fear disguised as caution, as balance, as prudence. It wears intellectual clothing. It speaks with the voice of reason. It sounds like friends. It mimics mentors. And worst of all, it often sounds like you. You call it thinking it through. You call it planning. But in truth, you are not thinking. You are rationalizing a delay that has lasted for years. Great men knew this enemy well. John D. Rockefeller, one of the most calculated visionaries to ever breathe, was warned by nearly every advisor he had not to invest as boldly as he did during financial downturns. They called him reckless. They said he lacked caution, yet years later, these same men would follow his moves, copy his patterns, and call them genius. Why? Because success proved him right, and fear had only disguised itself as wisdom in their mouths. Rockefeller had what few men possess, the ability to hear the mask behind the words. He knew when logic was truly logic, and when it was just fear in better clothes. Understand this, fear is a shapeshifter. It knows it cannot always frighten you into submission, so it pretends to be your counselor. It sits on your shoulder and says, "Be smart. Don't rush." It quotes statistics. It offers stories of others who failed. It reminds you that you have responsibilities. It plays the role of the careful planner, and in doing so, it delays action, just long enough for your fire to cool, your focus to fade, and your former habits to reclaim the throne. You must learn to spot this imposter. You must examine every thought that tells you to pause and ask it this question: is this true wisdom or just a well-dressed fear? Because there is a time for planning. There is a time for thoughtful delay. But the man who wishes to rise must admit that most of what he calls waiting for the right time is simply cowardice with good posture. Let us speak plainly. You will never be ready. The stars will not align. The conditions will never all be in your favor. There will always be one more piece of information you could gather, one more book you could read, one more opinion you could seek. And if you listen to that voice long enough, you will die as a man who almost did something great, and the world does not reward almost. This is the trick of fear. It does not aim to stop you with force. It aims to delay you with questions. What if it doesn't work? What will people say? What if I'm wrong? Shouldn't I be smarter about this? These are not inquiries. These are chains. And every time you pause to answer one, you are reinforcing their power. The answer to these chains is simple, though not easy. Act anyway. Act even when the answers are not clear. Act especially when your vision is loud but your confidence is quiet. Act when the voice of fear tells you to wait for better timing, because when you move forward in spite of fear's whispers, you do not just defeat it, you expose it. It is better to fail boldly than to succeed while hiding. For bold failure is growth, but hidden success is a prison. The man who moves without guarantees becomes the man who commands his future. And the man who waits for guarantees, he becomes the man who obeys his past. Affirm this truth within yourself, not once, but daily, until your mind accepts it as law. I am the type of man who moves without guarantees. I do not wait for certainty. I build it. I call fear by its name and act anyway. I am not cautious. I am called. My wisdom is in motion, not delay. Write these down. Speak them aloud. Let them become more familiar than your fears. Let them be the vocabulary of your rising. Your greatness will not arrive in a neatly wrapped opportunity. It will not come after 10 more years of waiting for the right moment. It will come when you speak your command louder than your caution. When you look fear in the eye and say, "I see you, but you do not rule me anymore." This is not recklessness. This is not arrogance. This is faith. Faith that your calling is not an accident. Faith that you were not given this vision merely to sit on it like an unused inheritance. Faith that the man you are becoming is already within you, and he is sick of being delayed by your polite negotiations with fear. Let your next step be the boldest one you've taken in years. Let fear flinch at the sound of your resolve. Let your logic be rooted not in fear's voice, but in faith's instruction. Because in the end, history does not remember the man who waited. It remembers the man who moved. There is a tragic misinterpretation that has lived in the hearts of men for far too long. The idea that pain is a sign they are on the wrong path. That when delay comes, or when betrayal visits, or when loss breaks into a man's life uninvited, it must be because he has erred, because he is cursed, because fate has turned against him. But this is not truth. It is a lie born of misunderstanding the nature of greatness. For pain is not punishment, it is preparation. When a seed is placed into the soil, it is first buried. Darkness surrounds it. It does not sprout immediately, nor is it applauded. It is pressed into silence, solitude, and strain. But under that pressure, it begins to change. Its shell breaks. Its form transforms. What once was cannot remain, and only after this death of the familiar does new life begin to push through the soil. So it is with men. So it is with you. The pain you've endured, the loss that made your chest cave, the betrayals that taught you silence, the seasons of waiting where hope began to dim. These were not signs that you are unworthy. They were signs that you are being readied. A man who has not known suffering cannot carry power. For without suffering, he becomes arrogant, fragile, ill-equipped to handle responsibility, loyalty, and purpose. But the man who has suffered well, the man who has looked at pain and refused to let it define him, becomes something unshakable. Consider Abraham Lincoln. Before he led a fractured nation through its darkest hour, he endured loss upon loss. He failed in business. He was defeated in election after election. He buried the woman he loved. He wrestled with melancholy so severe that his friends feared for his life. And yet, through it all, he never called himself a victim. He never blamed God or man or chance. Instead, he grew, quietly, consistently. And when the hour came that demanded a leader of rare character and endurance, Lincoln was not merely ready, he was qualified. The pain had made him so. Understand this: pain is a test of trust, not of your trust in the world, but of God's trust in you. Would he place greatness into the hands of a man untested? Would he entrust a message, a mission, a mantle to one who had never been broken and rebuilt? Number. He must first ensure that the vessel will not crack under weight, that the man will not collapse under pressure, that when the moment comes to stand, he will not falter. The scars you carry are not signs of weakness. They are your credentials. They are the proof that you were chosen to endure what would break most men. You are not disqualified by what hurt you. You are distinguished by it. But here is the difference between the man who is crowned and the man who crumbles. One learns to transmute his pain. He does not sit in it forever. He does not tell the story of his suffering until it defines him. Number, he uses it, he studies it, he extracts power from it, he writes down the lessons, he speaks from the scar, not the wound. He turns bitterness into clarity, and he walks with fire in his veins, not self-pity on his shoulders. You must learn to ask a better question, not why did this happen to me, but what is this making of me? Not when will it end, but what is it building in me that nothing else could? It is not by accident that the greatest men in history are also the most wounded. Ford was ridiculed, blocked, sued. Edison was called a fool, a fraud, a madman. Carnegie came from poverty so deep that he had to lift himself up with nothing but vision. Schwab was laughed at for his age. Roosevelt was told he would never walk in strength. And yet, all of them learned the secret. Pain is not an intruder. It is an invitation. You must decide today that nothing you have endured will be wasted, that all your sorrow will be converted into strength, that what delayed you will now define you, that what once made you feel broken now makes you bold. Stand and declare this not with emotion, but with authority. I am the type of man who transforms pain into purpose. I do not run from suffering. I rise through it. My past is not a prison. It is a proving ground. I have been tested, and I am now trusted. Let those words settle into the deepest part of your soul. Let them be the new creed that walks beside you each morning. There is no more room for blame, no more time for bitterness. Your pain was sacred. It was not the enemy, it was the forge. You were not being punished, you were being refined. And now that you know it, you are ready. The mistake most men make, the fatal error that robs them of years, is this. They believe the man they wish to become lives somewhere in the distant future. They speak of him as if he is a stranger yet to arrive. They think of greatness as a mountain they will one day reach, as if it awaits them after more knowledge, more security, more permission. But this is illusion. The man you are meant to become is not off in the future, waiting to appear. He already exists. He lives within you now, buried not beneath time, but beneath delay, beneath fear, beneath memory. You do not need more years. You need more clarity. You do not need more information. You need more decision. The truth, if you are willing to hear it, is that your highest self has been knocking on the door of your daily life for decades. Not once. Every day. And every day you've said, not yet. I'm not ready. Maybe tomorrow. But he is not patient. He is not casual. He is your divine design, and he will not wait forever. When Edwin C. Barnes decided to partner with Thomas Edison, he did not send a letter of inquiry. He did not ask what the qualifications were. He did not delay until he had capital or reputation or experience. No, he simply showed up. He boarded a freight train, traveled across the country, and walked into Edison's office as though he already belonged, not with arrogance, but with conviction. He did not beg for the role. He declared it in presence, in posture, in speech. And the world, being a mirror, eventually confirmed what he already knew. He was the man for the task, not in 10 years, not after a few promotions. That very day, his identity outran his credentials. And Edison, whether immediately or over time, recognized it. This is not fantasy. This is not delusion. This is the law of assumption in motion. The man who acts with internal authority commands the attention of others, not by force, but by clarity. And clarity is power. Most of you walk like shadows of your destiny. You speak of what you will do one day. You refer to the man you want to be as if he is someone you need to find. But he is not missing. He is ignored. He is silenced every time you say, I'm not ready. He is buried every time you hesitate at the moment of motion. And he dies a quiet death every time you betray your own voice for the comfort of other men's opinions. You cannot afford this any longer. Not now. Not after what you've learned. The man you are meant to be is not becoming. He already is. You are not creating him. You are simply revealing him by the choices you make today. This is not a matter of faking it. Number. It is a matter of living from the center of your soul. The version of you that is afraid was learned. The version of you that delays was trained. But the version of you that is bold, decisive, grounded, and clear, that is the original. That is the blueprint. And you can access him the moment you stop arguing for your limitations. So act like him now, not next week, not after the world applauds you. Today, wake up with his clarity, eat with his discipline, speak with his decisiveness, love with his intensity, work with his purpose, rest with his peace. Let every motion declare, I am no longer waiting. You will stumble at first, yes, but so what? The baby that falls while learning to walk does not say, walking must not be for me. He stands again. Because walking is in his design, so too is power in yours. Here is what I now command you to say aloud every day until it no longer sounds like a suggestion, but a confirmation. I am the type of man who lives from the future I have already built. I am no longer hoping. I am executing. My actions are not based on my past. They are shaped by my destiny. I walk with the posture of the man who has already overcome. I am not reaching. I am revealing. Let these declarations be spoken not with hesitation, but with certainty. Write them. Memorize them. Recite them until they reprogram every fiber of your being. For repetition is the path from idea to embodiment. Speak them until they become your second breath. Then, and only then, will the world begin to reflect them. You are not missing anything. You are not behind. You are simply one decision away from stepping into the man who has waited within you all along. Do not wait another hour. Do not pray for power. Walk in it. Do not wish for clarity. Speak it. Do not look to the horizon. Be the sunrise. The man you desire to become is already here, but he is waiting on you. And he is not patient. Take a blank sheet of paper, not a digital screen, not a fleeting thought, paper. For what is written by hand touches the subconscious far deeper than what is merely pondered. This paper will not hold plans or goals. It will hold truth, your truth, and it will expose the silent thief that has robbed you year after year. At the top, write the fear ledger. Beneath it, draw 2 columns. Label the first column, fears I obeyed. Label the second, what it cost me. Now, begin. With honesty. With fire. With no room for self-protection or polite censorship. Write down every fear you have listened to in the past 5 years. The moments you paused when you should have spoken. The opportunities you let pass because you wanted to wait and see. The dreams you delayed because of what might go wrong. The people you avoided confronting, the habits you refused to kill, the visions you kept private, all because fear whispered, not yet, not you, not now. Was it the fear of failure, rejection, public embarrassment, losing money, being laughed at? Write them all. Next, in the column beside each fear, write the cost. Not just the material cost, but the emotional toll, the confidence lost, the years wasted, the relationships weakened, the destiny delayed. Be precise. I didn't ask for that promotion because I feared I wasn't ready. Cost, 2 years of stagnant income, loss of respect, growing resentment. I didn't speak my vision aloud. Cost, loss of clarity, drift, missed allies. Make this a sacred confrontation. For until you count the cost, fear will continue to feel affordable. Once the ledger is full, sit with it, not as a victim, but as a man reclaiming his mind. Let your eyes scan the page, not with regret, but with resolve. You are staring at the receipts of fear's manipulation, but this is no longer a record of defeat. It is a declaration of war. Now, fold the paper, go outside, or to your sink, or to the fireplace, and burn it. Watch it turn to ash. Watch the flames eat the lies. As the smoke rises, say aloud, not as a whisper, but as command. Fear no longer speaks for me. I do not answer when fear calls. I write the orders now. Feel the shift. Let your nervous system register the moment as final. This is not a game. This is exorcism by fire. You are no longer the man who negotiates with fear. And from this day forward, let this be your vow. If fear does not pay rent, it does not live in your mind. If you ever feel fear creeping again, remember this ritual. Not the emotion, the decision. Fear may visit, but it will no longer govern. You are no longer that man. You are no longer available for fear's counsel. You are the one who acts, who speaks, who builds. And the next 5 years, they belong to you. A man may possess vision, strength, and even the beginnings of courage, but if the air he breathes is filled with the stench of doubt, he will suffocate before his destiny is born. The environment of a man is not neutral. It is either forging him into steel or softening him into ash, and most do not even see it happening. They do not recognize that the slow poison of their surroundings is what kills their greatness, not with a blade, but with a pillow. Look around you, not just with your eyes, but with spiritual discernment. Who do you allow near your thoughts? What voices have you permitted to echo in your mind? Who are the men and women who call you daily? Do they stoke your fire, or do they dampen it under the cloak of concern and reason? Understand this truth. The mastermind principle is not a suggestion, it is law. No man climbs without being lifted, and no man falls without being pushed. Your environment is the sum of every influence permitted to touch your inner world. If even one doubter remains in your circle, their fear will find its way into your bloodstream, and you may not even know it until hesitation begins to spread like frost across your ambition. Consider Henry Ford. When he birthed the idea of mass-producing automobiles, the world scoffed. Men said, "That's impossible." But those men were not in his daily council. His inner circle was comprised of builders, not questioners. He knew the mind must be guarded like a treasury, and he allowed no one near it who spoke of limitation. When investors or advisors tried to steer him from his course, he ignored them, not rudely, but decisively. He did not need their doubt to become his diet. And what of you? You who claim to be building something worthy, but keep companions who speak more of safety than of greatness. You who say you want to become more, but return each day to the same room, filled with the same reminders of who you used to be. You must understand, the battle is not only fought within, it is fought in every corner of your life. Your furniture, your schedule, your habits, your conversations. They are either armor for your mission or poison for your progress. Begin today with the ritual of purging. Every week, remove one symbol, one voice, one item, or one habit that ties you to your lesser self. Do not argue with it. Do not sentimentalize it. If it is not aligned with the man you are becoming, it must go. That old jacket from a time when you were drifting, donate it. That chair where you sit and scroll your hours away in silent fear, burn it. That friend who never builds, only complains, release him with grace but with finality. Your home should be a temple, not a tomb. Your desk, your walls, your wardrobe, your bookshelf, each must be curated like the palace of a king. If an object, a person, or a pattern cannot be seen in the life of your highest self, it does not belong in your present. Do not wait for your environment to change. Command it. Stand in the center of your room, look around, and declare, "Everything around me must now serve the man I am becoming." Repeat it until you believe it. Say it again every time your hand reaches for the old habit, the familiar comfort, the easy distraction. There is a reason great men build libraries, sanctuaries, and spaces of solitude. It is not to isolate themselves from people, but to insulate themselves from mediocrity. And so you too must become deliberate in every detail. When you rise in the morning, what greets you? When you walk into your workspace, does it breathe clarity or does it sigh confusion? Fear thrives in clutter. It survives in chaos. But fear dies in the presence of order, intention, and vision. Let your very surroundings whisper back to you, "We are ready for greatness." Are you? Affirm this as you command your space. I do not tolerate reminders of my past self. Everything around me reminds me of where I'm going. My environment bends to my mission, not the other way around. Repeat these aloud. Post them where your old excuses used to live. Speak them while clearing the dust from forgotten corners. Say them while discarding the weak voices, the tired relics, the quiet comforts that dulled your fire. You are not cleaning, you are consecrating. You are not decorating, you are declaring. A man's surroundings are a sermon. Let yours preach purpose. Let your air be filled with the scent of direction. And let the world that once softened you now shape you into steel. Because a man who controls his environment does not wait to feel powerful. He lives in power. A man's downfall is rarely born from chaos itself, but from his confusion in the midst of it. For fear shouts, it screams, it panics. It storms into the mind with trembling hands and false alarms. It appears urgent, authoritative, and inescapable. But destiny whispers. Destiny does not fight for attention. It does not raise its voice. It does not chase. It waits, because it knows what most men have forgotten. True power is never loud. It is easy to mistake volume for value. Most do. They believe the loudest thoughts are the truest. They mistake anxiety for caution and hesitation for wisdom. And so they follow fear, not because they trust it, but because it is the only voice they can hear. The world has trained you to follow noise, to obey the shout, the signal, the siren. It has trained you to believe that anything quiet must be weak or unimportant. But hear this clearly. Your soul does not shout. It whispers. And it speaks only when you are still enough to hear it. Luther Burbank, one of the great creators of nature's marvels, was a man of this stillness. His genius did not erupt in crowded rooms or echo through constant conversation. He did not chase applause or require validation. No, Burbank worked in silence. He walked in solitude. And in that silence, he communed with a deeper power, an inner knowing that could not be bought, taught, or shaken. He spoke of how ideas would arrive not in thunder, but in gentle nudges of intuition. He trusted that voice, not the critics, not the market, not the experts. And through that quiet obedience, he gave the world miracles. And so must you. If you want to hear your destiny, you must first silence the fear. You must shut off the radio of public opinion. You must stop listening to the inner critic, the tired ghost of old failures, the echo of other men's regrets. You must create silence, not just outside you, but within you. This is not meditation for comfort. It is consecration for purpose. Close your eyes and ask yourself this. What is my soul asking of me that I have ignored because it was too quiet to compete with the noise? Now listen. Listen without demand, without expectation, without needing the answer in 5 seconds or less. Your inner voice does not obey deadlines. It responds only to devotion. The man you are becoming is not hiding. He is waiting. And he will not interrupt your distractions. He will not shout over your excuses. He will not barge into your routine. He waits for your decision to finally listen. Understand this. Most men never hear destiny, not because it was not given to them, but because they never got quiet enough to hear it speak. Do not be that man. Every morning before the world enters your ears, sit in stillness. Every evening before sleep takes your mind, return to that stillness. Ask nothing, demand nothing, just listen. You will begin to hear the whisper again, the one you knew as a boy before fear became your teacher. And when you hear it, do not doubt it, obey it. That is the voice of your calling, and it will never shout. It is the same voice that led Lincoln through nights of failure, the same voice that told Ford to move forward despite the laugh of doubters, the same voice that told Edison to try again when everything had failed. It is not a voice of logic nor of emotion. It is a voice of conviction. It is where your true self resides, waiting patiently for your full return. Speak now this affirmation aloud, slowly and with reverence. I obey the whisper, not the world. Let it root into your being. Let it become your response when fear raises its volume. Let it guide your actions when everyone else is screaming for you to quit, to pause, to turn back. The loud path leads to the crowd, but the quiet path, it leads to greatness. You were never meant to be ruled by noise. You were meant to command from within. There are no kings made in a single day. No empires rise because of one act of greatness. And no man ever walked in mastery without first repeating the motion of mastery long before the world believed it. Repetition, not explosion, is what creates the royal. It is not the flash of effort, but the rhythm of identity, declared and declared and declared again, that forges a life worth remembering. You do not become great once. You do not arrive at confidence once. You do not choose faith once. You choose it daily. You repeat it not because you forgot, but because the world will try to convince you otherwise. It will whisper, "You're not him." It will nudge, "You're not ready." And if you do not meet that suggestion with sacred repetition, it will win. But if you repeat who you are until there is no more argument, the world will surrender. Andrew Carnegie did not merely build with steel, he built within himself a higher man. A man whose thoughts were too fixed to be bent by circumstance. He rose, worked, and gave with the same inner statement, "This is who I am." His actions, his words, his decisions, all were repetitions of a single chosen identity. He repeated not his past, but his vision, until the present had no choice but to obey. This is the secret most overlook. They believe repetition is only for the weak, the unoriginal. They crave novelty. They crave the next idea, the next plan, the next method, and so they drift. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they refuse the royal law of identity repetition. The man who repeats his powerful self-image becomes that man. And what of you? Have you built the habit of declaring who you are, even when results say otherwise? Have you chosen your words and repeated them until your subconscious believes there is no other option? Have you made your daily declarations sacred? You must begin to speak your future until the present surrenders. You must rise in the morning and say aloud, not as motivation, but as identity law, I am the man who executes. I am the man who no longer delays. I am the man whose thoughts create movement. I am the man who becomes royalty through repetition. And do not stop. Speak it in the shower, in the car, on your walk, before you eat, before you sleep. When you rise in the night and feel doubt knocking, respond with declaration. This is not empty ritual. This is installation. Every time you speak the truth of your becoming, you chisel away the false image that fear tried to sculpt in your youth. Every repetition is a revolt against mediocrity. And listen to this closely. Even if no one believes you yet, even if the world mocks your words, even if your voice trembles and the mirror laughs, repeat anyway. Because the world does not respond to who you were. It responds to who you decide to be consistently. When Ford imagined his factories, when Rockefeller charted his enterprises, when Edison envisioned the light long before it shone, do you think they waited for proof? Number. They became the result through ritual, through repetition. And that identity, repeated often enough, created the very outcome they envisioned. You must do the same. Write down the identity you wish to embody. Speak it aloud morning and night. Repeat it until your body adjusts, your mind aligns, and your environment reshapes itself around your voice. You will become royalty not by demand, but by declaration, not once, but daily. This is the throne. This is the crown. This is the only way the man you were born to be returns from exile. Now say, I do not wait to feel it. I repeat it until I am it. Let that line become your sword. Let it defend you when doubt comes. Let it guide you when you feel small. Because you were not born to echo weakness. You were born to command identity. Repeat until it is so. Repeat until the throne appears beneath you. Repeat until the man you feared to imagine is the man staring back at you in the mirror. Royalty was never a gift. It is earned in repetition. If you do not rise and sleep with a definite chief aim in your heart, you are not living. You are wandering. The mind, like a ship, must be given a clear destination, or it will drift upon every wave of circumstance and suggestion. A man who does not carry his purpose at dawn and recite it again at dusk is not a master of his fate. He is a slave to randomness. This exercise is not optional. It is the foundation. It is the anchor of discipline. It is the starting point of all personal power. Here is what you must do. Every morning when you rise, before your feet touch the ground, write your definite chief aim, not in your thoughts, on paper. Write it with clarity, with decisiveness, with emotion. Then say it aloud. Speak it not as a wish, but as a command. Let your voice carry the conviction of a man who has already seen it fulfilled. Every night before you rest, return to that same sentence. Speak it again. Let your subconscious drink it in. This is not repetition for memory. It is repetition for installation. The mind obeys what it hears consistently. The body follows what the mind accepts. And the world, in time, yields to the man who walks aligned with one unwavering aim. Now you may ask, how do I write my definite chief aim? You do not write what sounds good. You do not write what pleases others. You write the truth that burns in your soul, the one thing that, if fulfilled, would make your life a masterpiece. It must be personal. It must be precise. It must stir you. Begin with the words, I am the man who, or my definite chief aim is, and declare in the present tense exactly what you are building. Let me give you examples. I am the man who builds a publishing company that reaches 1 million people with messages of purpose, discipline, and truth by the year 1900 and X. My definite chief aim is to accumulate a personal fortune of $500,000 through manufacturing in such a way that I may return the majority to education and public service. I am the man who commands my time, my habits, and my mind, so that I may become the strongest example of vision and power for my family. My aim is to become the trusted advisor to 10 of the most powerful businessmen in America through integrity, mastery, and service. These are not fantasies. These are declarations, and when repeated daily, they reshape the man speaking them. Place your written aim somewhere visible, on your mirror, in your wallet, beside your bed. It should interrupt your day with its authority. It should pull you forward in moments of weakness. It should burn in your mind more brightly than any distraction. And now, listen to me closely. This is not about dreaming. This is about programming. Your mind is already being programmed. If not by you, then by the world. If not with purpose, then with fear. The definite chief aim is your sword. It is your wall. It is the single idea that repels doubt, confusion, hesitation. If you miss a day, you've surrendered ground. If you delay writing it, you've invited drift. But if you do this with full heart, daily, unbroken, you will rise one morning no longer needing to believe, because you are the man who lives it. So begin tonight. Pick up the pen and declare your aim. Speak it until it moves your spirit. Repeat it until it shapes your world. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he no longer seeks to add something new to himself, but to reclaim what was buried. For too long, the listener has believed that he must become something else, chase something far, or accumulate traits he lacks. But now he must see. The man he was always meant to be was never lost, only silenced by fear. You were not born weak. You were taught to hesitate. You were not created to beg. You were trained to wait. And though the world may have praised your caution and admired your humility, those virtues became your prison the moment you allowed fear to wear the robe of reason. But today, in this moment, you must remember, you were always powerful, just obedient to the wrong master. The thoughts you suppressed, the actions you delayed, the decisions you postponed, those were not faults. They were betrayals, not of others, but of your birthright. For you were born with the seed of greatness, and fear, clever and patient, did not steal it. It merely distracted you long enough for you to forget it was there. But hear this now. You are not at the beginning. You are at the return. And returns carry weight, momentum, fire. They are not timid. They do not ask. They restore. This is your restoration. You must understand this clearly. The power you desire, the boldness, the decisiveness, the certainty already lives in you. It does not require a new year, a new teacher, or a new opportunity. It requires only that you stop negotiating with fear and begin commanding from purpose. You do not need more time. You do not need more signs. You need only to remember. You must walk back to the throne you abandoned, not with shame, but with strength. You must return as the rightful ruler of your mind, your speech, your movement. Look back not with regret, but with recognition. Every delay, every doubt, every detour, these were not curses. They were classrooms. They taught you the cost of silence. They trained you to hate hesitation. And now, because you have known drift, you are qualified to walk with direction. Rockefeller did not begin with applause. Barnes was not welcomed into Edison's inner circle overnight. Carnegie was not crowned by others. He declared himself, moved accordingly, and the world aligned in time. You must now do the same. No longer wait to feel ready. No longer seek permission. No longer bow to the voice that says not yet. It is now or never, and you were not made for never. Write your words, speak your aim, burn the old ledger, walk into rooms as though they belong to you. And if your voice shakes, let it. If your hands tremble, raise them anyway. The future does not require perfection. It only requires presence. Let these final affirmations be etched upon your mind. I was never small, only silent. You were not weak. You were unpracticed. You were not less. You were just lied to by a world that fears men who rise without apology. I do not ask anymore, I declare. You will not knock politely on the door of destiny. You will walk through it boldly, for it was made for you. Fear once ruled me, but I returned, and now I rule. This is your vow, your reminder, your restoration. You have not become someone new. You have returned to the man you were always meant to be. Let the world watch. Let fear whisper. Let delay tempt. You will not turn around. You are no longer available for anything less than full power.